Hi there. My name is Bernadette Smith. Welcome to Five Things in 15 Minutes, my weekly show where I bring good vibes to DEI. That is good vibes to diversity, equity, and inclusion with a little dash of corporate social responsibility. What I found is there are lots of news stories about what's going wrong in the world and lots of negative data. But there are also a lot of things going right. And that's what I like to focus on. I search for DEI stories that we can be inspired by and learn from. My hope is to inspire you to experiment with some of these inclusive actions and policies within your own organization to help you build a more inclusive world. In this week's episode, John Avila, CEO of Avila Creative, and I will chat about a special swim cap, Peppa Pig, equal pay, and much more. John, let's get started. Will you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, first, thank you for having me, Bernadette. It's great to celebrate continued DEI progress despite some of these recent setbacks. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm John Avila. I'm principal of Avila Creative in Chicago, and we focus on all sorts of graphic design reports. Specifically, we've been focusing on DEI, ESG, and sustainability and annual reports. And we work with a number of clients from McDonald's, Harley Davidson, Walgreens, Tegna, and also work with nonprofits like Gender Cool and Howard Brown Health and Equality Illinois. And we're also a diverse certified firm.
Awesome, John. Well, really excited to have you here today and your perspectives. I've never had a creative on the show before to talk about their work with companies like that. So tell me a little bit about some of the trends that you're seeing when you're working with some of those big companies on their reports.
Sure. Well, we've done annual reports for years and then sustainability reports. And then after the tragic killing of George Floyd in 2020, that really fueled, as you know, this whole DEI movement with companies and organizations to really show their commitment to DEI. And so these reports have really grown out of that. And I think it's really important for them to showcase statistics and what they're doing. And they try to communicate to employees, recruits, the media, and just the public in general. So it's really a growing area. And, there's a big trend to do DEI reports right now. We're excited to help companies do that.
That's awesome. So tell me, when you're actually working on these reports with your clients, are you noticing any trends themselves that a lot of your companies are succeeding at, or there are certain benchmarks that you're seeing them hit? Like, what are some of the best practices or the really cool ideas that you're seeing coming out of those
Yeah,
reports?
it's actually been a learning experience. Like one of the biggest things is accessibility, of course, which being a DEI report, you want to make sure it's accessible for everybody. And there's such a whole nother group of guidelines online when you're doing a microsite or a PDF or even a printed report to make sure that it's accessible, which before doing print reports, it wasn't really a criteria. So that's really a great new area we've been exploring. Also capturing key data, like not just fluff and that kind of thing, but really showing workplace representation by race, ethnicity, board and leadership. Those are all important things to get in there. And also making sure that there's good imagery, because often for these reports, there's really bad snapshots that people take on their phones, at events and things. And it's worth, if you're going to do a report, to hire a professional, diverse certified photographer or illustrator to work on it and get quality images.
Those are great tips, John. So you are an LGBT BE, certified LGBT business. And so are you finding that that is an advantage for you in working with these larger companies?
Absolutely, because even the referrals I'm getting from the chambers, and then also the teams that I'm working with, we're all diverse teams, and it's great to all be working the energy, working on these reports. We're all passionate about what we do and what we're doing. It's just this mission-driven work, and it's really been a great experience.
I can just tell, like when I asked you that question, I could tell the shift in your energy. You just got excited just even talking about it. I can see the passion coming through. It's fantastic because I think that, I hear so many I have so many conversations with folks who are doing DEI work and they're feeling burnt out and they're feeling stuck and they're feeling like, things aren't really moving as fast as I hope. But, and just hearing you talk about the progress that's being made and the positive energy that you are having on the teams that you're working with, I mean, that excites me.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of movement. And I mean, a lot of companies have added, DEI directors, across the board, Fortune 500 companies. So these are folks who are fresh in their positions, and we're excited to help them navigate the way through the process, and what information it needs to be in there.
Excellent, excellent. Well, let's get to
Yeah.
today's good vibes. So the first story is from Peppa Pig, which is the popular children's TV show. It's been on for, I think, 18 years or so around the world. Well, the show has introduced a character with two moms. Those moms happen to be polar bears. I love this because, I'm a lesbian mom, and I think it really matters to have some of this stigma around same-sex relationships and parenthood, destigmatized by representation.
Absolutely. It's so great to see shows like this. Also reminds me of Arthur from a few years ago, where they had two dads get married on one of their episodes, the teacher. And I mean, we didn't have that when I was growing up. We didn't have that. I mean, I think back, and I mean, Johnny Quest is the closest I could think of, where you had two ambiguously gay men and they had two children, and and they were going around together, but it was never defined. So it's so great that we have role models for children now.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? This is still making news. Yes, there was Arthur a few years ago. These things are still so infrequent that they make
Absolutely.
news. It's not normalized. It's not totally integrated the way we would hope. But it's progress. And the normalization of this and the destigmatization, you know what I'm trying to say? The
Yeah.
normalization of this really does go a long way towards showing producers of other works, hey, you know what? This is just life. It is life. And I love it. I think it's fantastic, especially when we see laws like the Don't Say Gay
In
law
Florida. Yeah.
passed in Florida. Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So the
Good.
next story is about a swimming cap made for black hair. Now, this cap is called the Soul Cap, which had been previously banned from the Olympics. But now it has been approved for use by the worldwide governing body for competitive swimming. Now, this cap is important because it specifically protects hair that's thick, curly, braided, or otherwise textured, hair that doesn't necessarily fit easily into traditional swim caps.
Yeah, I mean, this is so great to make things much more inclusive for everybody. I was reading a little bit about that, and the two guys in Britain who invented this cap, they were especially thoughtful about making sure kids, like children of color, when they're swimming, because there's not many folks who go into swimming, like less than 1%, I was reading, in some of the sports and or some of the swimming things. And this is going to enable everybody to feel more welcome, throughout their life to get involved.
Exactly. I mean, and these are the types of things that I take for granted, John. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
I don't have to think about this. If I wanted to be a competitive swimmer, I would have had a cap to wear. It wouldn't even have been something on my radar. But there is a
Exactly.
problem that's being solved, and it's just opening up the possibilities for everyone. Well,
Welcoming more people
for
to the table.
BIPOC folks. Exactly. Exactly. I love it. All right. The third story comes from HubSpot, which has a fantastic culture code. Better to try and sometimes fail than to sit tight and fail for sure. In fact, they actually have a great internal program called the Failure Forum, where employees tell stories about their mistakes and what they learned from those mistakes.
Yeah, no, this was great to see. I mean, I think back in my career years ago, I had something happen where there was a new business opportunity where I was working, and it was in New York City, and I was told that if I go to New York and I don't win this opportunity, then I'm going to have to pay for my expenses, my air flight and hotel. And I was like, wow. I mean, I was taking a chance pitching this company, but I didn't care. I went and did it anyway, and I won the account. And then I had that client for 10 years, and it was like, oh my God. I mean, you got to just go with your gut. And it's like, it's so nice to see these days where companies are doing this and supporting people.
Absolutely. And I think that it's really, so many of us are afraid of embarrassing ourselves or looking bad or
We're getting fired
making,
for
getting
doing
fired,
something. Yeah,
making mistakes. Absolutely. And I think when we normalize the discussion around making mistakes, it forces us all to be a little more humble, which, let's be honest, could probably help some of us at work. But it also, again, it normalizes the discussion of mistakes. It becomes more acceptable. And mistakes are how we learn.
everything's a learning experience, right? I mean, yeah.
Absolutely. But the fact that this is embedded in the values, it's embedded in the system of the organization really does matter because it becomes a systemic solution. And when we are able to talk about our mistakes, it starts to lay the foundation of psychological safety, which empowers others to do the same. So it's contagious in a good
Absolutely.
way. All right. The next story comes from US soccer. So you may have been familiar with how the US women's and men's national soccer teams were paid unequally, despite the fact that the women's team was much more successful on the world stage and more popular. And now they are paid equally. They have the exact same new contracts with identical paid structures, which, it's a really big deal.
Yeah, this is so exciting. And I have two girls and they were in soccer, and it's so nice to see this happening now. And I know they've been working on this a while. And I hope it spreads to other sports. I mean, other sports like basketball. I mean, now we see the WBNA getting big. And I mean, right now, a lot of women athletes have to go to other countries in order to supplement their salaries because they're not getting paid equally. And there's other sports, golf, softball, tennis. I mean, it would be great to see this happen across the board.
Absolutely. Those women work really hard, and there's no reason that they should be paid any less. So it's just like discrimination, straight up. So it's
Totally.
just the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do.
Long
And
time coming.
a long time coming. And they actually had the support of the men's team, which is
Yeah,
great.
which is terrific.
And the last story today, John, comes from Princeton University, which I think is fantastic. So, Princeton, which is an Ivy League school here in the US, has a new policy that if your family earns less than $100,000 per year, Princeton is covering all tuition and other expenses for undergraduates. And they expect this benefit to apply to about a quarter of their students. Absolutely fantastic.
So such an inclusive move for them to do, and I hope it also is extended to grad students too. I mean, to help, people go on to become doctors and things of that nature too. But yeah, what a great move.
Absolutely. I mean, this is an expense which could be about $80,000 per student per year. And we know that there are a lot of students who are BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color, who are disproportionately crushed by student loan debt, who are less likely to have generational wealth. So this is a really
Absolutely.
equitable move by Princeton.
Yeah, kudos to them, and hopefully other schools will take note.
I hope so. I mean, I think they're going to have to, right? Because Princeton has set themselves up to have a competitive advantage, right? And so when we're looking to increase diversity, as virtually every organization is trying to do, it starts with increasing the pipeline. And
Right.
let me tell you that there will be a lot of Princeton grads in extra high demand, particularly if they are people of color, BIPOC folks.
Right. That's like showing that their commitment and really putting a bang for their buck. It's not just like, appearing in a parade or doing something superficial. It's really doing something substantial.
Absolutely. That's what this show is all about, is showcasing the ideas that you all can bring back to your own organization. Maybe giving away free tuition is not necessarily appropriate for your organization, but I hopefully that there has been something in today's 5 things that applies, and you can test out and try and experiment with to start to see these benefits and rewards of diversity, equity, and inclusion. John, thank you so much for being an excellent guest today. It has
Thank
been
you.
such a joy having you and your unique perspective here.
Great to chat with you. Thanks for having me.
All right. If you don't already subscribe to the 5 Things newsletter, you can subscribe at 5thingsdei.com.